I woke up in the middle of the night to sounds that shouldn't have been there. A soft, muffled breathing, like someone hiding in the dark, trying not to be heard. Through a crack in the wall of our Oak Park apartment, a Chicago suburb, I caught a rustling, like a stifled sigh. I froze. Someone was in the apartment, someone besides us. Shadows swayed behind the thin partition, a chair creaked, then a faint moan, husky, familiar. I knew that voice, Allison, my wife. Something gripped my chest, not anger, not fear, but an icy realization. The world I thought was mine was unraveling, and I was listening to its collapse. Minutes later, the door creaked. Allison slipped back, tiptoeing like a thief in her own home. She sat on the bed's edge, as if nothing happened, then lay down, her breathing steadying too deliberately, faking sleep. I felt her heart racing, like a teenager caught red-handed. I stared into the darkness, not at her, into a void growing in my mind. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message from Michael, my boss. You're incredible, tomorrow again? The same Michael who shook my hand daily at the office, his smile fake. The night wasn't over, it had just begun. Morning came with a strange sense of change, not just sleepless exhaustion. Everyday details felt alien. The coffee we shared each morning was a cold ritual, stripped of warmth. Allison sat on the couch, flipping through a book, her movement sluggish, eyes dim. She barely noticed me. You see when someone's no longer with you, their presence fading into the furniture, insignificant. Through the window, I watched Chicago's sky pale. Her posture screamed avoidance of my gaze. I knew we ignore what we fear seeing. She asked about tomorrow, casual, like a normal chat. But I heard it, a desperate attempt to pretend we were still connected. I mumbled something vague, my mind fixed on one question. Was she ever real with me, or was it all a masquerade I built? In the kitchen, she clattered dishes, and I felt her slipping into someone else, a shadow of the woman I loved, failing at her role. That evening, I noticed marks on her neck, faint but there. Her face darkened when she caught my stare. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Her fear-filled eyes said everything. What happened? I said, holding her gaze. Silence. She looked away, and I knew the void between us was permanent. I wouldn't scream or make a scene. I'd dig until I uncovered every filthy secret of their affair. Michael, who praised my work but blocked my promotions, was playing me. He was stealing my wife. I drove to my friend Tom, the only one I trusted. Over bourbon, he said, you need proof, or you're just crazy to them. He was right. Emotions were weakness. I needed facts to crush them. I crept home at dawn. Allison slept in the bed where she betrayed me, her hair fanned across the pillow, but all I saw was deceit. I didn't sleep, scrolling her messages, hunting for cracks. I found them, curt replies, new passwords. I'd start digging, and I'd make them pay. Allison changed in a week. She used to share office gossip, laugh over Instagram memes, but now she was distant, her late work nights piling up. When I asked, she brushed it off. Project? Boring, don't want to bore you. I believed her because I loved her, but her eyes dodged mine, gnawing at me. It wasn't fatigue, it was a secret she hid. I decided to test her story. One evening, when she stayed late, I called her coworker Sarah. Allison? She left at 6, Sarah said, and my chest tightened like a fist. 6, and it was 10 now. I thanked her, hiding the tremor in my voice. Allison came home, reeking of sharp perfume, not her usual vanilla, but something musky, foreign. Where were you? I asked calmly, standing in the kitchen. She tossed her bag on the couch, rolled her eyes. I told you, Project. You tracking me now? Her tone cut, but she flashed a smile, kissed me. Her lips were cold, with a faint taste of someone else's cologne, and I barely stopped myself from pushing her away. I didn't confront her. If she was lying, I'd find proof. I didn't want to be the hysteric who yells and regrets it. I started watching. She began leaving her phone face down, a new habit. Her wardrobe shifted, tight dresses hugging her thighs, too bold for her Chicago office. New vibe, she said when I asked, her voice shaky. I saw her primping for hours, adjusting her neckline, painting her lips red, a shade she used to hate. It wasn't for me, it was for someone else. I logged her late nights in my phone. Monday, 10:30 p.m., with colleagues. Wednesday, 11 p.m., presentation. Friday, didn't come home, texted about it. Girls' night. I called her friend Amy, who was stunned. Girls' night? I haven't seen Allison in a month. Each lie stabbed, but I stayed focused. I bought a notebook, jotting down her words, gestures, scents. She showered right after coming home, unlike before when she'd lounge in pajamas, as if washing off someone's touch. One night, While she slept, I checked her bag. Tucked in a pocket was a receipt from a River North restaurant. Dinner for two, champagne, oysters. Dated last Friday, when she was with Amy. The bill was more than our monthly grocery budget. I snapped a photo, slipped it back. Feeling rage turned to cold resolve. It was my first solid clue, but I knew it wasn't enough. I needed undeniable facts to shatter her lies. I started researching ways to track her without raising suspicion, diving into tech forums late at night, learning about phone monitoring and GPS devices. I didn't know where this would lead, but I was ready to go all the way, to expose her betrayal and make her pay for every deception. Her lies were piling up, and I was building a case, piece by piece, to bring her and Michael down. I wasn't the fool she thought I was, and soon she'd see the cost of underestimating me. I thought Allison's new lingerie was her way to spice up our marriage. She used to tease me with lace on anniversaries, giggling as I lost myself in her curves. But these new sets, black silk, red satin, garters she called impractical, never showed up in our bedroom. She tossed them in the laundry, then sleep in an old oversized tee, like I wasn't worth the effort. Therefore, I decided to search her closet. Late at night, while she slept, I crept to her wardrobe. Under a stack of sweaters, I found a box with 3 lingerie sets. The price tag was outrageous, beyond our budget. Attached was a receipt, signed by Michael, my boss, dated 2 weeks ago. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to breathe. I photographed the receipt and box, replaced them, and slid back into bed. Allison slept, her hair fanned across the pillow, innocent as a saint. I lay awake, picturing her modeling that lingerie for him, Michael's fingers peeling it off in some hotel room, their bodies entwined in the dark. I didn't sleep, rage mixing with disgust. The next day, I watched her closer. She was cautious, phone always in her bag, laptop password changed, car keys tucked in her coat pocket. But I dug deeper. Her stories about working with Michael fell apart. Marketing stuff, you wouldn't get it, she'd say, dodging details. I noticed faint marks on her neck, red, like someone's lips had been there. She hid them with a scarf, but I saw her eyes dart when I stared too long. A diamond bracelet appeared on her wrist. She claimed she bought it, but our bank statements showed no jewelry purchases. Another nail in her lies coffin. I created a fake Instagram account, friending her coworkers. Emma posted a photo from a company party in downtown Chicago. Allison pressed against Michael, his hand on her waist, her laugh too intimate. Caption, Dream Team. I saved the screenshot. Another photo showed them at a River North bar, clinking wine glasses, her fingers brushing his hand. She tagged him, not me. Rage simmered, but I knew emotions were a trap. I needed a plan. I checked her phone's activity via our Wi-Fi router. It logged hotel booking sites, couple spa packages, even a sex shop. Allison, who once blushed at intimate jokes, was now buying toys for him. The thought made my stomach churn, but it fueled me. I bought a tiny recorder and hid it in her bag's side pocket. I knew it was unethical, but she destroyed our trust. I was playing her game now, ready to uncover every secret. The recorder caught snippets, her soft laugh, his low voice, a rustle of fabric. I listened, feeling the betrayal cut deeper, but it only sharpened my focus. I started mapping their patterns, her late nights aligned with his business trips. I cross-checked his work calendar, accessed through a shared company drive, and saw no trip scheduled. It was all a lie. I began researching private investigators, knowing I'd need more than my own efforts to nail them. I wasn't just gathering evidence, I was building a guillotine. Their affair was a house of cards, and I'd make it collapse, exposing every sordid detail. Allison thought she was clever, but I was steps ahead, ready to turn her lies into her downfall. Allison became obsessed with her phone. We used to laugh over memes on the couch, but now she texted in the bathroom, hiding the screen when I entered the room. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes darting, not habit, panic, fear of being caught. One evening, while she showered, I grabbed her phone from the kitchen counter. The password had changed, no longer our anniversary, 0714. I tried her birthday, mine, our first date, nothing. Time was ticking, the shower humming, so I put it back, sweat beading on my spine. But I didn't give up. I remembered our Wi-Fi router logged connections. I accessed the settings on my laptop and checked her phone's activity. Dozens of messages sent to Michael's number, daily, sometimes at 3 a.m. when she was supposedly asleep beside me. I copied the logs, saved them in an encrypted cloud folder. Logs confirmed my suspicions, but I needed their words, the raw truth of their betrayal. I spent a night scouring tech forums and installed software to mirror her texts to my laptop via Wi-Fi. The next day, when she worked late, messages flooded in. Waiting at 8 o'clock, room 508, Michael wrote. Her reply, on my way, miss you. They detailed their encounters, him pinning her against a hotel wall, her whispering his name, laughing that I suspect nothing. My blood roared, but I kept reading. Each word was a blow, but I collected them like bullets for a future shot. They mentioned a West Loop hotel, their cozy spot, Michael called it. I called, posing as a guest, and confirmed room 508 was booked weekly under his name. I pictured them, Allison in that silk lingerie, her legs around him, their bodies moving in sync in a dim room. Rage boiled, but I forced myself to think coldly. At home, she played the doting wife, cooking my favorite pancakes, hugging me for no reason, but her eyes flicked nervously when I neared her phone. It was a performance to distract me, to keep me from digging. I played along, smiled, kissed her back, but my mind churned with plans. I bought a GPS tracker and hid it under her car's floor mat. I knew it was a line crossed, but she'd forced me to this. The tracker confirmed. She drove to that hotel when she claimed work. I saved every route, every timestamp, building my arsenal. Her lies were my weapon, and I was ready to wield them. I started cross-referencing her text with Michael's schedule, accessed through a company portal. His meetings coincided with her absences. I also found her search history on our shared computer, hotel bookings, lingerie shops, even articles on keeping affairs secret. It was a slap, but I used it. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was crafting their ruin. Allison thought I was blind, but I was ahead, turning her deception into her downfall. I researched private investigators, knowing I'd need professional help to seal their fate. I wasn't just angry. I was a predator, and they were prey, oblivious to the trap closing around them. I tried convincing myself it was a mistake, that Allison was confused, that there was an explanation for her behavior. But her lies grew blatant. Coworkers said she left the office at 6, yet she came home past midnight, reeking of foreign cologne. I checked her work calendar on an old laptop where she'd forgotten to log out. No meetings after 6. Therefore, I went all in and activated the GPS tracker on her car. The next evening, when she texted stuck at the office, the tracker showed her parking at the West Loop Hotel. The blinking dot on my screen crushed my last hopes. I called the hotel, posing as a courier, asking if I could deliver a package to Michael in room 508. The clerk confirmed he'd checked in. I hung up, hands trembling. I pictured them. Allison in that red dress she wore for work, her body pressed to his lips on her neck, their breaths mingling in the dark. Rage sharpened, but I knew emotions wouldn't help. I needed ironclad evidence to destroy them. I hired a private investigator, Nick, selling our old sound system to cover his fee. Allison didn't notice, too wrapped in her secrets. I gave Nick the tracker data, phone numbers, photos. 3 days later, he sent a report. Pictures of Allison and Michael entering the hotel, hand in hand. She wore that red dress, neckline plunging, her smile meant for him. Another shot showed them kissing in Michael's car, his hand sliding up her thigh under her skirt. I stared at the photos, each pixel a stab, but I didn't break. I thanked Nick and asked him to keep tracking. At home, Allison grew paranoid, checking if I was asleep before texting, clutching her phone even in the bathroom. But she left a browser tab open, a Miami hotel booking. I checked her text via the sync I'd set up. They planned a romantic weekend. She wrote, "I'll say I'm visiting Mom." My insides twisted, but I knew this wasn't the end. I gathered more evidence. The recorder in her bag caught fragments, her soft laugh, his low voice, a rustle of fabric, her calling him darling. I found old messages in her cloud, undeleted, where they discussed getting rid of me, calling me too dull for her. Each word was poison, but I collected them, building my arsenal. I also accessed Michael's expense reports through a company loophole, finding charges for hotel rooms and dinners that matched her late nights. I saved everything: screenshots, photos, recordings, financials. I wasn't just reacting. I was orchestrating their downfall. I started studying divorce laws, learning how infidelity impacts asset division. Illinois favored the betrayed spouse, and my evidence was overwhelming. I contacted a lawyer, sketching out a plan to claim the apartment, car, savings. I also dug into Michael's vulnerabilities, his marriage, his job, his ego. I learned his wife, Claire, was unaware of the affair. I drafted an anonymous email to her, ready to send when the time was right. I also found Michael's financial discrepancies in company records, bonuses he'd redirected to personal accounts. I prepared a file for HR, knowing it could end his career. Allison's preparations for Miami grew obvious. A new dress, a manicure appointment, a secretive smile. She thought she was safe, but I was ready. I told Nick to follow them to Miami, to capture every moment. Their affair was a ticking bomb, and I held the detonator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The evidence piled up, but I couldn't accept that Allison, my Allison, was capable of this. I remembered our early dates, her blushing at my compliments, our dreams of a suburban Chicago home. But now she was a stranger, cold, calculating, her lies choking me. I needed undeniable proof that left her no escape. I leaned on Nick, my investigator. I gave him the West Loop hotel address, phone numbers, Allison's schedule, photos, and asked him to focus on their meetings, ideally with video. I knew it was costly, so I sold our old TV panel to cover it. Allison didn't notice, too consumed by her double life. I recalled she'd synced her phone to our home computer for backups. I logged into her iCloud with an old password she hadn't changed. There were hundreds of photos, including theirs, Allison in that silk lingerie, posing in a mirror, Michael embracing her at a restaurant, lips on her neck. I saved them in an encrypted folder. A week later, Nick delivered. A video from the hotel lobby camera showed Allison and Michael entering, laughing, a champagne bottle in hand. She pressed against him, her hand sliding down his back, his fingers teasing her dress's hem. They vanished into the elevator. I watched the video repeatedly, rage hardening into resolve. Nick also sent intercepted call recordings, their voices clear. They discussed their hotel encounters, her screaming his name, their Miami plans. Allison said, "He's so trusting, it's almost not funny." I clenched my jaw, saved the recordings. I analyzed their plans. Text revealed they'd booked a Miami suite to celebrate 4 months together. 4 months meant she'd been cheating since Christmas. I recalled the holiday party where Michael held her hand too long. I blamed the eggnog, but now I saw the truth. I was blind then, but not anymore. I called the Miami hotel, confirmed their booking, and learned Michael paid for a room with a jacuzzi. It was their last hurrah, though they didn't know it. I noticed Allison prepping for the trip. A new dress. I found the receipt in her bag, a manicure booking, a secretive glow. She told me she was visiting her mom, but I knew better. I smiled as she lied, even helped pack her suitcase. Inside, I seethed, but outwardly, I was calm. I contacted Nick, instructing him to tail them in Miami, to document everything. I also met a divorce lawyer specializing in infidelity cases. We drafted a petition citing her affair, attaching key evidence, texts, photos, financials showing she spent our money on their fling. The lawyer assured me the court would favor me, leaving her with nothing. I researched Illinois divorce laws further, learning I could claim the apartment, car, savings. I also dug into Michael's life. His wife, Claire, was oblivious, but I'd changed that. I prepared an anonymous email for her, packed with proof. I found Michael's company emails hinting at financial misconduct, bonuses he'd funneled to personal accounts. I compiled a dossier for HR, ready to send. Allison's lies were my leverage. I cross-checked her text with hotel records, confirming every meeting. I also found her search history, how to hide an affair, best hotels for privacy. It stung, but I used it. I wasn't just gathering evidence, I was crafting a trap. Their Miami trip was days away, and I was ready. I imagined them in that suite, thinking they were untouchable, oblivious to the storm I'd unleash. I wasn't the fool they mocked. I was their judge, and their sentence was coming. I wanted to storm into Allison's room, hurl the evidence in her face, make her cry and beg for forgiveness. But I knew it would change nothing. She'd twist it, accuse me of paranoia, or play the victim with crocodile tears. Therefore, I acted with cold precision, compiling every shred of proof. Screenshots of their texts, Nick's photos, hotel videos, call recordings, tracker data. I found old messages in Allison's cloud where they plotted to get rid of me. She wrote, "He's boring. I want more." Michael replied, "Soon you'll be with me. I'll fix everything." I saved it all, encrypted, backed up on multiple drives to ensure nothing was lost. I began plotting their downfall. My first move was to shatter their arrogance. I knew Michael was married, and his wife, Claire, was clueless about the affair. I created an anonymous email and sent her a curated package, photos of Allison and Michael at the hotel, text where he called her "my girl," the receipt for the lingerie he bought her. I added a note, "Your husband is cheating." 2 days later, Nick reported Claire had confronted Michael, kicking him out. He moved into the same West Loop hotel where he met Allison, now alone, no longer in her arms. I pictured him in a barren room, nursing cheap whiskey, his world crumbling, and felt a flicker of satisfaction. I also targeted Michael's career. As my boss, he prided himself on his company status, but I knew many clients trusted me over him. I contacted key accounts, posing as updating contacts, hinting I'd soon start my own firm with better terms. Several expressed interest, promising million-dollar contracts Michael thought were his. I also gathered dirt on him. Texts with Allison revealed he'd siphoned company bonuses to personal accounts. I anonymously sent HR a file with screenshots, knowing it could lead to his firing or even a lawsuit. Allison kept up her act at home, cooking breakfast, asking about my day, but her hands trembled when she checked her phone, likely hearing of Michael's fallout with Claire. I played dumb, asking, "Everything okay?" as I chopped vegetables. She mumbled about work stress and showered longer than usual. I knew the office gossip I'd sparked via Emma had reached her. Her colleagues whispered. Emma sent her an angry text accusing her of lying. I checked her text with Michael. They were panicking. "Someone knows," she wrote. "We need to be careful." He snapped back. "It's Claire. She wants me dead." They had no clue I was the puppet master. I prepared the legal strike. My lawyer drafted a divorce petition, citing infidelity, attaching evidence. Texts, photos, financials showing Allison spent our money on their fling. I froze our joint accounts, transferring most funds to a new one, ensuring she couldn't touch them. I met an appraiser to sell our Oak Park apartment post-divorce. I couldn't live where she betrayed me. I also planned a public hit. Allison cared about her office reputation. I sent Emma more photos of their affair, knowing she'd spread them. I dropped the same images into the office chat anonymously, igniting a firestorm of gossip. Allison came home pale, claiming exhaustion. I offered her tea, smiling as her world cracked. My plan was nearly complete. I awaited their Miami trip for the final blow. I contacted a realtor to list the apartment, began sketching my new business, and kept Nick on standby in Miami. I imagined Allison and Michael in that suite, smug, unaware of the reckoning I'd unleash. Their lies had built a cage, and I was locking the door. Allison and Michael thought I was clueless, and their arrogance was my greatest weapon. They continued their secret meetings, planned Miami, believing their affair was untouchable. But I had everything: evidence, a plan, and icy resolve to destroy them. I struck their vulnerabilities. Michael valued his company reputation, so I anonymously sent HR a dossier of their flirty office texts and proof he'd redirected client bonuses to personal accounts, backed by screenshots from Allison's cloud. I knew HR wouldn't ignore embezzlement allegations. I also contacted Claire, Michael's wife, via anonymous email, sending a full archive: hotel videos of Allison and Michael kissing in the lobby, calls where he promised her a new life, receipts for gifts he bought her. I knew Claire would escalate to a lawyer, not just a fight. For Allison, I was subtler. She feared coworker judgment, so I sent photos of their affair to her friend Emma, adding, "Did you know Allison's sleeping with the boss?" Emma, a gossip, wouldn't resist. I also dropped the photos into the office chat and signed, sparking rumors like wildfire. My plan worked faster than expected. 3 days later, HR summoned Michael, and Nick learned he was suspended pending investigation. Claire filed for divorce, locking Michael out of their home. He moved to the West Loop Hotel, once his love nest, now a lonely cell. I imagined him slumped in a chair, drinking, his life in ruins, a fitting start. Allison came home rattled, hiding panic, but her trembling hands betrayed her as she checked her phone. "Something wrong?" I asked innocently, slicing carrots for dinner. She muttered about work issues and showered for ages. I knew the gossip I'd ignited had hit her. Colleagues shunned her. Emma sent a furious text accusing her of deceit. I opened my laptop, checked their texts. They were frantic. "Someone's on to us," Allison wrote. "We need to lay low." Michael barked, "It's Claire. She's out for blood." They didn't suspect me, the dull husband they mocked. I prepped the legal hammer. My lawyer finalized the divorce petition, citing infidelity, attaching texts, photos, financials showing Allison spent our savings on their fling. I froze our accounts, securing most funds in a new one. I met clients, offering partnerships for my upcoming firm. Several agreed, stealing Michael's revenue. I also sent HR more evidence: Michael's emails admitting to creative accounting. Nick reported Michael's suspension was now a formal probe, with jail time possible. Allison's office turned hostile, Emma's gossip spread, and coworkers iced her out. She tried keeping up her act at home, cooking, smiling, but her eyes were hollow. I played along, asking about her day, knowing she was drowning. I checked her texts. She begged Michael to fix this. He ignored her, tangled in his own mess. I contacted a Miami hotel, confirming their suite booking, and told Nick to get photos and video. I also reached a divorce mediator, ensuring I'd claim the apartment, car, savings. I listed the apartment with a realtor, refusing to live where her betrayal stained every corner. I began sketching my business plan, securing more clients. Allison's Miami lie grew obvious. A new dress, salon visits, a secretive smirk. She thought she'd won, but I was ready. I imagined them in Miami, sipping wine, oblivious to my trap. I wasn't just exposing them, I was dismantling their lives. Their affair was a house of cards, and I was the wind. I kept Nick on alert, prepped my lawyer for court, and waited. Miami was my endgame, and I'd make sure they'd never recover from the fallout. I was no longer the naive man who believed in eternal love and trusted Allison's every word. Her betrayal burned my old life to ash, but from it emerged a new me, cold, strategic, relentless. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Gone was the lost gaze, replaced by steel. I knew what I wanted. I wouldn't just survive. I'd destroy their world as they destroyed mine. I started with my career. Michael always underestimated me, calling me a solid worker, but not a leader. I contacted key company clients, posing as updating records, hinting I'd soon launch my own firm with better terms. 5 of 10 agreed immediately, promising million-dollar contracts Michael thought were his. I resigned, but first sent HR a full dossier of Michael's financial crimes, siphoned bonuses, backed by texts with Allison. I knew he'd face not just firing but potential lawsuits. With Allison, I was cautious. A home confrontation would let her play victim. I kept up the loving husband act, but every move was calculated. I hired a divorce lawyer specializing in asset division. We drafted a petition claiming everything: our Oak Park apartment, car, savings. My evidence of her affair was airtight, and the lawyer said the court would side with me. I met an appraiser to sell the apartment post-divorce. I couldn't live where her moans for another echoed. I worked on myself, joining a gym to burn stress and clear my mind. Each workout was a ritual, making me stronger, physically and mentally. I enrolled in online business courses, prepping for my firm's launch. I wasn't a victim crying at night. I was a hunter, and they were prey. Allison was unraveling. She hid it, but I saw her lose control. Co-workers shunned her after the gossip I spread via Emma. Michael stopped answering her texts, drowning in his own chaos. Claire's divorce filing, his job on the line. I read their messages. Allison pleaded for him to fix it. He snapped, "Handle it yourself." I pictured her crying in her car and felt nothing. She'd chosen this love that now turned on her. I prepped my final strike. Their Miami trip was imminent, and I told Nick to tail them, capturing every detail. I contacted the organizer of a conference Michael claimed to attend, confirming he wasn't registered. It was their last lie, and I'd expose it. I imagined them in that Miami suite, smug, unaware of my reckoning. I wasn't just angry, I was their judge. I began building my future, sketching my firm's structure, securing more clients. I met a financial advisor to invest my savings post-divorce, ensuring stability. I also researched Michael's vulnerabilities further, finding old colleagues who resented him. They shared stories of his arrogance, fueling my resolve. I sent Claire another anonymous email, adding new photos from Nick, ensuring her lawyer had enough to bury Michael. I checked Allison's phone activity, searches for how to save a relationship after cheating. Too late. I kept up my facade at home, helping with chores, smiling, while planning her ruin. I pictured her face when the divorce papers arrived, her world collapsing. I wasn't the man she betrayed. I was something new, forged in her lies. I began networking with industry contacts, laying groundwork for my firm. I also met a therapist, not to grieve, but to sharpen my focus. I wasn't healing. I was arming myself. Allison's panic grew. She snapped at small things, her eyes darting. Michael was a ghost, his life in tatters. I stood taller, my purpose clear. Miami was days away, and I was ready to end them. I wasn't a victim. I was the architect of their destruction, and the finale was near. The day of their Miami trip arrived. Allison claimed she was visiting her mom, but I knew she packed for a romantic weekend with Michael. I smiled, wished her a safe trip, playing the oblivious husband. She had no idea I held their lives in my hands. I waited until she left, then called Nick, already in Miami, ready to track them. I sent Claire a final evidence package, a video from the West Loop Hotel, Allison whispering Michael's name, pressed against a wall. I knew Claire would hand it to her lawyer, sealing Michael's fate. 2 days later, Nick sent his report. Photos, Allison and Michael at a Miami restaurant, her hand on his thigh, lips close. Video, they enter their suite, her red dress slipping off, his hands under her skirt. I watched, not to hurt myself, but to ensure every piece was perfect. That day, I filed for divorce, attaching everything. Texts, photos, videos, recordings, financials showing Allison spent our money on their affair. I demanded the apartment, car, savings. My lawyer said she'd get nothing. I also crushed their careers. I sent HR a full archive, their office flirtations, photos from the hotel, recordings of Michael bragging about fooling everyone, proof of his embezzlement. A week later, both were fired for ethics violations. Michael lost his job, clients, reputation. Allison was jobless, friendless, the gossip I spread via Emma reaching everyone. I moved out of the apartment, leaving Allison her clothes and that lingerie Michael bought. I sold the apartment, bought a smaller one in downtown Chicago, mine alone. I launched my firm, poaching Michael's clients, and it grew fast. I felt alive, living for myself. Allison tried contacting me, calling, texting, sobbing, begging to reconcile. I messed up. I love you, she cried. I listened to her pleas, felt only emptiness, then hung up and blocked her. I heard Michael fled to another city, his career dead. Claire won their house in court, leaving him broke. Allison was alone, no job, no money, no reputation. Her friends turned away, her family refused help after learning the truth. I pictured her in a cheap rental, staring at that lingerie, realizing she'd lost everything. I didn't care. She chose this path. I stood on my new Chicago balcony, wine in hand, watching the city's lights. I was free. Allison's betrayal destroyed my past, but gave me a future. I didn't look back. I knew something bigger awaited, and I was ready to seize it. My phone buzzed, a new client with a contract offer. I smiled, answered, and stepped into my new life. I learned Michael faced a lawsuit for embezzlement, his name toxic. Allison applied for low-end jobs, rejected for her tainted resume. I kept tabs through Nick, not out of obsession, but to savor their ruin. My firm landed a major deal, doubling my income. I began dating, not rushing, but open to new connections. I wasn't the broken man she left. I was whole, stronger. I donated our old furniture, erasing her traces. I met industry leaders, expanding my network. My name now respected where Michael's was mud. Allison sent one last email, a rambling apology. I deleted it unread. Claire thanked my anonymous account, unaware it was me, saying she'd rebuild her life. I nodded to myself, knowing I'd done the same. I wasn't vengeful, I was victorious. Their affair was a fire that burned them, not me. I walked back inside, poured another glass, and planned my next move. Life was mine now, and I was its master.